The loop method for starting your cross-stitch thread is hands down one of the most useful things that you can learn. Now, even if you've been cross-stitching for quite a while, you may not have come across this. And if you have, do you know that you can do it from the front of your work? I actually only learnt this myself a few years ago. And the good news is it's super easy to do, and I'm going to show you how. Hi everyone, I'm Kat from Catkin and Lily, bringing you the best tips, tricks and tutorials so you can get the most joy from your stitching. If you're new here, make sure to click that subscribe button because I have so much more good stitchy stuff to share with you. Okay, but let's get started because I'm really excited to show you why the loop method is so darn useful and just how easy it is to do. If the name hasn't already given the game away, then you're going to need a loop for this method to work. So that means taking a long piece of thread and folding it in half. And yes, that means it's not going to be possible if you're using 1 or 3 strands of thread. Let's take a look. Okay, so let's have a look at the loop method for starting your cross-stitch thread. I've got some stitching here, and if anyone's curious, this is the pattern that I'm using. It is of course one from my Etsy shop. I've changed the colours up a little bit though. I have my needle already threaded up to go. I've used 1 strand of thread and folded it in half, so I've got a loop at one end. Quick side note here, because if threading your needle is something that you struggle with, then I have a video with tips to help you out with that, and I'll link that in the notes. So back to the loop method, and to start you want to bring your needle up from the back of the fabric in the corner of the square that you want to start stitching in, and you want to pull it until you have a small loop on the back of the fabric. Then go down in the diagonal as you normally would, turn your work over, and before you pull it all the way through, put your needle through that loop of thread and pull it tight. So now your thread's secure. And you can just carry on stitching exactly as you usually would. That's all well and good, but it gets better. Because remember I said you can do this from the front? Okay, so I'll just leave that one to one side. Got another needle here. So this time, push your needle down from the front of the fabric. So you're going to leave the small loop on the front. Come up from the back. Now don't pull this all the way through because if you keep pulling it, your loop's going to pop straight through to the back. So you can leave it so there's some on the back here like this. Put your needle through the loop and again pull it tight. So now that's secure, but obviously the loop's on the front. So what we want to do is go back down the hole that you just came up in. And if you pull that away slightly, you'll be able to see much easier to put that needle back down the hole you came up in and pop. The loop has just gone through to the back. And now it looks exactly the same on the back as the other one. And again, you can just carry on cross-stitching and it's secure. Now you've seen this method, I can guarantee you won't want to start your cross-stitching any other way. Sometimes you might have to, but it's just so good, isn't it? Now, you might be wondering a couple of things at this point, like can you do a loop start right next to other cross stitches? And yes, absolutely you can. I've done a loop start on a stitch that was completely surrounded by other cross stitches, and it is a little bit trickier to get the needle through the hole, particularly going back down the hole without splitting the threads that are already in there, but it is absolutely possible. And if you do find it trickier, you can always go back to using the loop method from the back. The other question you might have is whether you can do the loop start on a partially completed row of stitches. So if you've already got stitches going in one direction, the bottom half, and you want to do a loop start on the top arms, then yes, absolutely you can do that too. My personal favourite for using the loop method is when you just have 1 or 2 stitches of a colour to do, and I'll just cut a really short piece of thread and fold it in half so I can loop start. It makes it so much easier. Now, if any of this was new to you and it's completely changed your cross-stitch game, then do let me know in the comments, or maybe just let me know how much you love the loop start if it's something that you already knew. Thank you so much for watching, and happy stitching!